Hi guys, so don't mind the dressing gown and filming this at night, but I decided to try and do the mid-year book freakout tag. Now, I've only been on booktube a month, but I have read a few books this year, so I decided to just do it once, see what happens, and go from there. But if you see me looking this way, it's because my laptop is here with all the questions. So, anyway, let's get into it. The best book I've read so far this year. Now, I have a couple of answers for this one. One of them is an answer that I have later on this list, so I'll probably go for the other one, which is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Now, this book, I watched a movie, and that movie made me feel, and that movie is one of my favourite movies. And the book was intimidating in size, but I actually really did like The Book Thief. Now, if you don't know what The Book Thief is about, it's basically about this girl in Nazi Germany during wartime. She is taken in by this foster family, and it's basically Death as a narrator is telling this girl Liesel's story. So that is definitely one of my two favourite books for the year. Okay, next question. Best sequel you've read so far this year? Now, I haven't actually read that many sequels, but I guess one of the sequels is I have read the first 3 books in the Percy Jackson series, and so I guess I'll say The Titan's Curse, which is book number 3 in the Percy Jackson series. It introduced some new characters as well as retold the story of Percy and continued it. And the character of Nico is probably going to be more prominent than the other two, but I'll figure it out as I go. Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know, Percy Jackson is about this kid named Percy Jackson who discovers he's a demigod, which means he's the son of a human and one of the gods of Olympus. And he pretty much goes to a camp for all of them, but he never stays at that camp for long because he's always taken off on some adventure. Anyway, the next question is a new release I haven't read yet but want to. There is a few of these, but I would say The House on the Cerulean Sea is probably one that I am intending on reading at some point. I don't really know for sure what it's about because I don't have I don't have the book or the buy or anything, but I definitely want to read that at some point. Okay. So this is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I was looking at it. I don't really look at the releases, but there is one. It's called Once Upon a Wardrobe, and the synopsis that I got from the internet is: a physics student strikes up a conversation with author C.S. Lewis when her terminally ill brother asks her to find out where Narnia comes from. Now, this book sounds so sweet, and I really do want to just read it because I was a fan of the Narnia books when I was younger, and this will be an interesting way to figure out what it is. Biggest disappointment of 2021 so far. Now, this is probably where I'm going to get some backlash, but probably Scythe. Now, no, I liked the book, it just wasn't as good as people were hyping it up to be. And yeah, I only gave it about a 3.5-ish star. And I don't know if it wasn't a good time for me to read it or what, but I didn't really like it as much as I wanted to. So, anyway, we'll move on from that. The next question is biggest surprise of 2021. I'll have to say The Martian by Andy Weir. It is a book that I read about a month ago, and it was actually a very good read. I thought with all the flipping and forth between the comedic side and the science that it wouldn't get my interest, but it actually turned out to get my interest perfectly, and it was a very surprising read in terms of even with the science it still managed to draw me in, and it also taught me some science that I hadn't heard, that I didn't actually know at that point. So yeah. Favorite new author, that's a debut author or new to me. An author that I've read a couple of books of, one this year, one last year, is an author called Charlie Donnelly. Now, I don't think it's necessarily good to call this a favourite, but I don't really have favourite authors. I haven't read multiple books of enough of one person to know for sure, but I have liked both of the books that I've read of Charlie Donnelly so far this year. So for now, I will say that, and we'll see if my answer changes later on. Okay, moving on. Next question is newest fictional crush. I don't actually have full-on fictional crushes, but if I did have to pick, it would probably be Peter Malark is probably the closest I would get to a fictional crush. Yeah, I started reading the Hunger Games series recently, and I did kind of like Peter Malark. And not just because he was played by Josh Hutcherson in the movie, and he was kind of a childhood attraction for me in a weird way. So yeah, probably Peter Malark. Newest favourite character. Again, going back to the Percy Jackson series, probably Annabeth Chase is a strong contender, or Patrick from Percy the Wallflower. So yeah. Yeah, Patrick is just one of the most genuinely funny characters I've read in a while. But Annabeth Chase has this kind of female strength that you can also admire in a character. And both of them are extremely loyal to the main characters in the books. Patrick is super loyal to Charlie, and Annabeth is extremely loyal to Percy as well. So yeah, those are probably my favourites. Book that made me cry this year. This is bringing in my other favourite that I mentioned before, is probably The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa. Now, this book, it's only 180 pages, so it's not a long book, but it had one of the most beautiful relationships between people without being anything romantic. It was just about feeling of friendship and your family connections, and it was such a beautiful book. It was about this housekeeper who gets hired to be a housekeeper to a old restaurant professor who only has a 19-minute memory before he forgets everything. So she has to go back every day and reintroduce herself and get to know the professor. But I really do recommend that read because it's translated from Japanese and it is so like sweet and wholesome, and more people should read it. Okay, next question. A book that made me happy. Hands down, probably you should see me in a Crown by Leah. I can't remember her last name, but the book will be somewhere on the screen. And this book is just a happy, wholesome, feel-good book about this girl who just wants to be with this other girl and just be accepted by everyone at the same time. And it's one of the most genuinely happy books that you will come across. Basically, the story is about this girl who finds out she doesn't have money for college, so she needs a scholarship, and one of the only ways you can get that is by becoming the prom queen at her school, because the prom king queen get college scholarships. And it is one of the most beautiful books that I've read this year, and will probably continue to be that. Okay, next question. Most beautiful book you've bought so far this year? I will put the covers on the screen because I can't be bothered getting any of these books, but it's probably Renegades by Marissa Meyer, something beautiful about that cover, or The Lake House by an author that I can't remember, but the picture will be up on the screen somewhere. But they are two genuinely beautiful covers that I have this year, even though I haven't read either of the books yet. But the covers are genuinely beautiful. Okay. And the last question I've got is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? I want to say all of them, but that's being very optimistic because I am a student. I work and I don't physically have time to read all of them. But I will put a pile in here somewhere of the ones that I'm most excited to read. So, anyway, this has been the mid-year book freakout tag. I know it's not very exciting or full-on, but I wanted to get my opinion of books out that I've read this year so far, and this is just my way of doing it. Anyway, I've got all the questions listed below if anyone wants to do it. If you like what you see, subscribe, or don't, and I'll see you later. Happy reading. Stay tuned.